Good morning. I hope you are doing well. It is Tuesday, April 11th, 2023. Um, I hate to start my lectures with an apology, but I am going to do it. I have to apologize for the way we proceeded with this course. This is, by my own confession, my first asynchronous course. I am so very accustomed to teaching in person. So, in that way, I'm able to keep up with you and my lectures and meet you and do all of this. I'm an actor by training, and being in front of a crowd is what makes me work. So, for that reason, I'm sorry. Um, Moving forward with the course, this week I will post the remaining discussion boards and quizzes. Everything that I post has a final due date of May 1st. Work on these at your own pace, just knowing that the due date for everything that will be posted from this point forward will be the end of the term, or May 1st for you. I will submit the final on the second. You will complete it that day and get it back into me. The final will be cumulative, and I will spend time reviewing in a lecture for you. My concern right now is the critical response, and I'm wondering how many of you have actually had an opportunity to see a play. Um, if you have, excellent. If you have not, please let me know as soon as possible so I can let you know about opportunities to see plays in the next week or so. Little Shop of Horrors is in production at the University of South Carolina in Columbia. It's an excellent show. I think you should consider seeing it if you are able to. I know some of you attended Into the Woods at Sumter Little Theater. Some of you are out of state, and trying to find something to see is challenging. I understand that. So communicate with me. Let me know how that process is going, whether you've seen something or whether you still need to find something. I will uh, advise or decide how we can best handle this last part of the assignment. For the last 2 weeks, we have seen the evolution of theater from the 5th century BC in ancient Greece to the Renaissance, the beginning of the Renaissance in the 17th century. We saw theater being performed as a part of festivals that honored gods, pagan gods. And we saw that happening in ancient Greece as well as in ancient Rome. The difference between theater in ancient Rome and in ancient Greece, of course, is that the Romans thought that the Greeks were barbaric. However, some of their plays were worth saving and changing. The Romans felt that theater, like their society, should reflect a quality called gravitas, seriousness of purpose. And they felt that Greek theater did not do that. For the Romans, it was more important to uh, provide entertainment, varieties of entertainment. And we saw several examples of that. As we come to the beginning of the Christian era, theater, of course, changed. The end of celebrations for festivals, for celebrating pagan gods, of course, came to an end. Um, this is a period when theater was used as a means of educating the uneducated about Christianity. The Middle Ages spanned from 900 AD to 1500 AD. And the Middle Ages were in three phases: early, high, and late. During the early and the high phases of the Middle Ages, theater was performed in churches and monasteries. This was called liturgical drama. By 1300, the last phase of the Middle Ages, theater moved outside of the church and was performed by lay people, common people, non clergy. It was performed in the language that people spoke. This was called vernacular religious drama, vernacular meaning in the language of the people. It was easier to understand, and that meant that the impact was greater. That being that people were able to learn more about Christianity and apply it to themselves. Unfortunately, at this time, religious conflict was rampant. These were outdoor performances of cycle plays by members of trade guilds. These were people who helped organize towns through their businesses. And they took on the challenge of telling these stories. Cycle plays told stories from the Bible, from creation to Revelation. So it was an opportunity for common people, non clergy people, to take part in this goal of educating people, exposing people to Christianity. But fights broke out at these performances, conflict, people were killed. For that reason, theater became dangerous. And by the end of the 16th century, the cycle play, all plays that dealt with religious subjects, started to be phased out, were frowned upon because they were dangerous. We are now moving into the period of the Renaissance. Renaissance meaning rebirth. And we find ourselves in England exploring the work of William Shakespeare. I posted several videos on Blackboard for you that discuss this period and Shakespeare's work, Shakespeare's theater, the Globe, um, as well as some unique qualities about Shakespeare's theater, the practice of performing these plays, as well as the audience. One interesting thing to notice about the progression of theater up to this point is the way the theater itself changed. If you notice, if you remember, in the theater of Epidaurus, there was a facade called the scena that was a fixed structure, and all of the action was performed in front of that. Uh, we saw the same thing in theater in ancient Rome. By the Middle Ages, theater was in churches, and eventually it moved outside, and outdoor performances was how theater was performed. In Shakespeare's time, we had a theater called the Globe. And in a lot of ways, it was similar to the structures that we saw in ancient Greece. There was a fixed facade that never changed. All of the action was performed in front of this structure. Entrances and exits could be made, but the Globe took this design and took it a step or two further. It's very interesting how they structured that stage and how they eventually used it. But when we talk about stages and the evolution of the stage, we look to Renaissance Italy. The formation or the invention of the proscenium stage happened there at a point when the Italians were masters of perspective and fixed point detail, three dimensionality, creating that on a stage was a challenge for the Italians, but they found a way to accomplish it. And once they had, they felt that it was time to frame it. That's where the proscenium came from. It was a frame around the stage, giving you that opening to the players. I'll be back.